Sir, Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the time you've taken to speak with us today. I'd like to ask you about your beginning, how you started as a professional, and for how long you've been in this industry, and what kind of which company you're managing at this moment.
I started Yasaar in 1998. It's the world's first Sharia-compliant services company. The concept was that I was working with my family in Pakistan, and I got there in 1992. And I was working with the first Islamic Mudaraba and listed in the Karachi Stock Exchange. So the first leasing company and the first Islamic leasing company. And then I'd gone to an event in Bahrain, Islamic finance event, and sitting there, my ears pricked up and I realized there was nobody really doing Islamic asset management. So I thought I'd do that. So I approached a number of people because we didn't have the expertise or the back office and everything that would be required and the years of experience of asset management. So I approached a number of companies, and in the end, it ended up with, we decided to do a real estate fund, an equity fund, and we were very fortunate that Morgan Stanley agreed to be the manager of our equity fund. After a number of months of talking, they came back and they said, look, you think you're doing a $20 million fund. We can do 2, 4, 800 million. I said, I know, I'm just a little guy. So they said, we'd like to do it ourselves. I said, well, thank you very much. Great. So no. We know nothing about Islamic finance. It's your idea. You have the Sharia board and whatever. So why don't you do it for us? So by default, we became Sharia advisory as opposed to an asset management company.
Okay.
And that's why we became the world's first Sharia-compliant services company in 1998. And in 2006, we were introduced to FTSE, who'd been doing some screening for the indices, but they weren't happy with the partner that they had and so forth. So we ended up becoming in a partnership with them to do Sharia screening of stock universe, which has now been going on for, well, 15, 16 years. And they're very kind. And on the 10th anniversary, they kindly asked me to open the trading on the London Stock Exchange. And we're now working with a number of fund managers as well. So we've worked with them with the different kind of funds, advising private equity, venture capital, sukuks. We've covered the whole ground. And I think we also, in about 2004, we did the work with the Saudi client to do a sukuk, which was because of, in those days, Saudi clients couldn't give assets to someone. Okay. So there was a two-tier structure that was developed. We won the awards for Sharia advisory from the various magazines, and I've been very lucky that I've been asked to write a number of chapters and articles, etc., on Islamic finance and different aspects of it over the years. I then was asked by Credit Lyonnais Securities, who I was talking to become a partner with us on the local brokerage. They then headhunted me and asked me, so I became the country rep for Credit Lyonnais Securities Asia, which was a Hong Kong-based outfit.
Okay.
And I did that for about some years. And then we also were active in the privatization mandates, and we got the mandate for the privatization of United Bank. And then in 95, I think, I set up the corporate finance and research department of Arif Habib Securities. And I got them the foreign currency license for them as well. And then in 98, I left and came back to England and set up Yasaar.
So could you please shed a bit more light on the type of services which you're offering to your customers, not only in the UK, but all over the world?
Most of our clients come to us through, more likely, word of mouth.
Okay.
And recommendations from mainly law firms or accountants. We also set up our operations in DIFC in Dubai in 2006. But I think when the 2007, 2008.
You've been in this industry for such a long period of time, dealt with so many customers and clients, and you've spoken at a lot of conferences. So what's your impression about the industry? Is it going in the right direction?
We've been talking about certain things for so many years, but that progress has not shown through. I've also found that in general, the industry leaps from one leaf to another. Only problem I find with Sukuk is that because there's not enough around, people tend to buy it and hold it. So there's no secondary market trading, which is very essential to the development of any business. That's one of the things that I think that needs to be addressed. Whether it will get addressed in my lifetime, I'll never know, but I hope it does. Now again, similar parallel is the fintech area and crypto and all that. I mean, I have my own reservations about crypto anyway, because to me, crypto is like subprime. It's hot air. There's nothing backing it. Okay, people believe there is backing, but it's so volatile. I wouldn't want to go near it. But nevertheless, a lot of scholars agree with it. Some don't. So we're now on to another leaf after Sukuk and fintech and crypto and this and that. So I'm wondering what will be the next sort of leaf. There are basic products like trade finance, which can be underpinned by real economy, real assets. And we've moved on from there. We're not doing as much trade finance, which I think is very essential to the development of economies anywhere. We need to see more sort of work done towards helping people as per the requirements of Islam. And it should not be just all profit motivated. It should also be to provide. So I think, like, for example, if, again, I object to places like Pakistan that do a zakat 2.5% from your account. No, zakat it's an obligation by you to make a donation, not for the government to take it just because they feel that they can control. You give 2.5% or you don't give that, you have to answer to God, not to the government.
Yeah, that's right.
These are the sort of things that have been hijacked, if you like. Whereas if a person feels, look, here I've got to give my charity donation or whatever, it's very simple. I mean, with tax, we have so many different levels and layers of tax for this and that. And you're finding a lot of lawyers, tax advisors, and everybody making a lot of money. There are tax havens or whatever you want to call them. But if you had a flat tax of 10% throughout, nobody would be trying to avoid paying it or trying to find ways and pay a lot of money to accountants and lawyers to mitigate their tax obligation. Why not just make it flat? You don't need that big tax departments. You don't need all these people employed doing this tax returns and all that. Here, I made a 20,000 pounds. Here's my 2,000 pounds finished. End. They don't need volumes and volumes of tax law.
That's right.
But, people, simplification probably causes issues of employment and unemployment.
That's right. Yeah, you're right.
So you have to create an employment base, because otherwise, if you have that, if you simplify things, you hurt the employment levels. Is the only reason I find that you have this system. But you don't have to have these things. Laws are very simple. Like, as I've said to people who are non-Muslims, that the Quran is actually a guide to life. From the day you go to the day you die, if you follow it, it's not asking you to do anything that you shouldn't. It's just common sense. It's normal.
Sir, you've mentioned some of the shortcomings which we are facing as industry professionals. So what do you think? Who is responsible for these problems? Maybe the governments, respective governments, or maybe industry professionals in general, researchers, academicians, or practitioners?
All of those categories that you mentioned are all willing and working hard to try and get this across. Main issue, I think, is as Muslims ourselves, as people. We talk the talk, we don't walk the walk. We should also consider that Islamic banking and finance was top down. It was built on the basis of push from the governments or high net worth individuals and pious people who felt that this was the right thing to do. And Islamic economists like Dr. Umar Chapra, etc., who've been working on this for many years.
Yes.
On the other hand, conventional finance is built from the bottom up. And all it was to do was a trade. And basically, letters of credit, etc. And there had to be somebody you trusted, which was the middleman or the trustee who held the contract and the good. And that ended up becoming banking. We've gone from institutional. We haven't even got to retail base yet. We need to have the retail base for the success of Islamic finance. But if you look at it, we're talking about usury and interest, etc. In the Roman times, usury was banned. Interest was banned. In Christianity, in Judaism, it was banned.
Oh.
In Judaism, usury and interest was banned, but then they changed it and adapted it to mean you can charge interest to non-Jews, but you can't charge interest to Jews. So that's one. In Christianity, it was also banned. Interest is banned in Christianity too. But they changed it and that interest is okay. Usury, which is unreasonable interest, is not allowed. Those are the differences. So really, if you go to all the Abrahamic faiths and before that, you will find that interest was banned. We as Islamic countries don't have the strength and power and a financial base like the conventional finance, and we're like, I think, less than 1% of finance, Islamic finance. So, you've got to get to a level playing field area. So if you have to have a substantial amount that is Islamic, and we're working towards it. I mean, places like Pakistan, Malaysia, they've got targets of saturation of Islamic finance at certain levels to at least have that much percentage of finance to be Islamic. And once you get that, once you get critical mass, that's when we can say, yes, we have got to a point where we can now have our own ability to compete on a level playing field basis.
Right. And sir, do you see any deficiencies in the regulatory environment in the UK or in other countries?
Well, look, we're always going to play catch up because we're a much younger industry. We're very fortunate that we have the regulatory developments of conventional finance and globally anyway. Now we've got ESG, we've got SDG. All these are happening now anyway. So we don't have to invent something. It's already, there's no point in reinventing the wheel. It's already there. You just have to make sure you decorate and use the wheel as for your purposes that fit your requirements. When it's mentioned the UK, it was an embarrassing moment when you find that this Central Bank of England, the Bank of England, it's provision and provided for development of double stamp duty removal for Islamic mortgage products.
That's right. Yes.
Right. The Bank of England and the UK did it before the Islamic Republic of Pakistan did. So we are still following. These people are leading even in our corner. They're leading in many ways. I mean, the Bank of England has recently done a facility for non-interest-bearing deposits for institutions.
And sir, you mentioned that our Islamic finance industry should be retail-oriented, which is actually not at this moment. So what do you think? What are the steps which we need to take as industry professionals to make it more? Of course, it's not just a duty of industry professionals, but also governments also need to take action. But what specific action they should take so that basically it's people are able to reap the benefits out of the Islamic finance principles?
Well, illustration, first of all, to Muslims that we have a product that is equivalent to a conventional bank product.
Right.
It has should have the same support of regulation and like for, deposit
Right.
insurance and so forth is very essential. I mean, let me put it another way. I'll tell you an interesting story.
Please.
This is the problem that our people have. When I say our people, I mean Muslims. I was in my Dubai office. I'm sitting there, and a client had an appointment to come and see me about Islamic finance that they were planning to do.
Okay.
This was not an Islamic bank. It was an international bank. It was a conventional bank. They wanted to do Islamic product. Okay. So I was visited by 3 people from their team. One was an Englishman, white. Another one was European, white.
Okay.
And a British Pakistani. And the question then came to fees.
Okay.
Our British Pakistani brother turns up and says, "Brother, you shouldn't be charging any fees, because it should do it for the people, for the Ummah." I said, "I'm so ashamed that I've mentioned fees. You're so right. I shouldn't charge anything. Of course, my mortgage, my children's school fees, my medical bills, I should come to the Ummah to pay for those, shouldn't I? Actually, you're absolutely right. I'm so sorry. Why don't we do this? I won't charge any fees at all, 0. But I will take off half of whatever you make out of this proposal." So the European and the English gentleman said, "Please be quiet. This is business. We're talking business here. We're not talking religion." And that's the problem.
Oh my God.
We open ourselves to stupidity. We open ourselves. That man was not doing it free. His job, he was getting paid for his job. And to assert that is ignorance and stupidity of the utmost degree. And this is where I find that our people fail. They get to a professional stage in an institution and they espouse this rubbish.
Yeah, they talk rubbish things, indeed.
How are the poor scholars going to pay for theirs? They have outgoings as well and expenses. Where does the Ummah get its money? Where is the Ummah also going to give everything for free? So, what I'm saying is that our brains need to get real with the requirements of the real economy and the real needs of society.
And sir, you mentioned that you just give an example of an international bank and 3 gentlemen, they came to visit you sometime in the past. And 2 of them were, of course, not yet Muslims. So do you think that Islamic finance is for mainstream consumers as well, not just for Muslims?
ESG is very closely aligned to Sharia.
Right.
So it's coming there anyway. We just have to say, look, we're already ahead of the curve for once in this thing. So let's work on that basis. I was talking to the former CEO of Al Rayyan Bank. And he said, "Majid, would you believe that 60% of our clients are not Muslims? A lot of Jewish people were the clients." I think, if I'm not mistaken, my memory may be not that great, but I think there were some TV personalities, prominent people, and they preferred to do this banking because they felt that this was the right way of doing it. So we have a very good product. We have a product that makes sense, especially in this day and age. It's very important to be doing the right thing. Look at the millennials. They're all looking at, climate change and all these things are happening, and the ESG requires ethical, social governance. All these are important factors. We are very fortunate. We've got them embedded in our religion and our upbringing, even though we don't think about it and use it properly ourselves. Because it's the world. I mean, like, for example, when people say, look, if you look at the news, if you look at the news on BBC, then CNN, Fox News, they're all saying the same news, but in a very different manner. They're presenting it in a different. So is this what we call an agenda? So if you want an alternative view, don't forget to look at Al Jazeera. So now you get a full view.
That's true. Definitely.
Both ends of the spectrum, and you get the bell curve, and there you are, the medium, and the median is where you should be looking at.
So, sir, at this stage, what do you think is the most essential thing which we need to focus on as Islamic finance industry professionals?
People are so focused on riba.
Right.
That's the be all and end all. That's a given. You don't even have to give it a second thought. But there are things you can do, for example, that would help people. Look, you can always make money even when you're helping people. In Islam, you have to have that ability to have an agreement. And the Prophet always said, get it done in writing between the parties.
That's right.
Also, once you've agreed, that's your agreement. Nobody's held a gun to your head to that agreement. You've agreed voluntarily. So in those cases, we've got to be very careful on how we write the contracts.
Right.
And so in essence, there have to be ways to be determined on achieving those results at the end of the day.
One of the last, if not the last, but one of the last questions I would like to ask you, sir, about this industry is there are a lot of young people out there who would like to enter into this industry. So what path should they take? What should they consider? What kind of education should they have? Maybe a lot of people, a lot of existing professionals, the current ones, they don't have the necessary industry knowledge, or as you mentioned, they don't have the right mind to be working in this industry because they don't have the foresight. They don't have heart to be working for the sake of the industry, for the sake of helping people. They just want to fill their own pockets. So what kind of background young professional?
Most important part is that, look, banking is banking, conventional or Islamic.
Okay.
Conventional finance, Islamic finance. Finance is finance. Basically, the idea is someone needs money, somebody has money, surplus funds and requirements.
Yeah.
Usually the bank is the middleman. They take your deposits and they lend it out to the borrower. Islamic bankers have certain things they need to learn, but basically a conventional banker can easily adapt to Islamic banking. Because basically the rules of the games are the same. Okay. So if you go on a tennis court, you've got the net, you've got the drawn lines, you've got the ball is confirmed what size it is, you've got a racket, and you know how to hit and whatever. So it's the same with this. You've got to know the rules and play by the rules.
All right.
Some of the rules are slightly different, Islamic as opposed to conventional. In terms of courses, there's a number of people who are providing courses across the world. There are universities that do courses. And, Islamic banks, when they hire, they're looking for people with knowledge. But besides the knowledge, if you have a degree in Islamic finance, you've got a, honors degree or whatever, is that enough? You can't. You need experience. You need knowledge. Sure. So, unfortunately, and one of the things you mentioned is what I take is that a guy coming out with a degree in Islamic finance wants to be made an executive. He wants a senior role. Baba, learn, first of all, the ropes before you start ringing the bell.
That's true.
So it's all a question of individuals. We all are different. We all have different needs and requirements.
That's right.
What motivates you and what motivates me may be different. So it's very important the motivation and the niyat or intention is the right one.
It's been really wonderful talking to you, and I learned a lot. I really want to thank you so much, sir, for your very
You're welcome. It's been a pleasure and an honor for me to
thank you so much, sir.
spend this time with you.